Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Jane Gardner again in Step in Front of the Camera series. Today we're going to go over some of the ideas of equipment that you might want to get to plan for your studio space. I gave you a checklist, but I'll show you that where to get that checklist again. But for now, I'm going to just do a presentation. And since I won't be on camera, it's looking like a good presentation. So, do you want to be able to create a great looking show from your home? Well, you can sit down and do a show anytime if you have a personal studio set up in your home, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So, what you will need for your home show studio is a space, a computer, a webcam, microphone, lights. I like a green screen. I know some people don't, and we'll talk about that later. And some inexpensive software that I like to use. But for your home show studio, if you want to have the greatest quality for your videos as possible, and especially if you're on Zoom or doing anything through the internet, you need a computer with an Ethernet connection. You can forget about using Wi-Fi for good quality videos. It just breaks up too much. So the more memory, the better in your computer. However, you can see how your computer does when you create a show and see if it's managing fine with the amount of memory that it has, or if you want to increase it. So I'm not going to stop you from doing a show just because you think you might not have enough memory. It's worth trying, and it's certainly, you can even try using your laptop as long as it's Ethernet connected. So for your studio, you need a good quality microphone with a USB connection into your computer. So there's a direct link into your computer for good sound. And you need a good quality webcam attached by a simple USB connection into your computer. And for some people, they're lucky enough that they can have it sitting on the monitor on the top, and it will be at the right level for them to talk to into the camera. But for me, I have to use a tripod just to get it at the same level as my eyes, so you can control the sight line. So you need probably might need a tripod to put it on. And you built-in webcam, it's not as good quality as a standalone webcam, and standalone webcams are quite reasonable now, especially a Logitech one. I have a higher quality Logitech Brio because I wanted to upgrade. But you can certainly do well enough with a Logitech 920. And it's amazing the quality of webcams, and we'll be talking about that further in another episode. And then, of course, lighting. You can start with trying to find the best place in your room to use with natural lighting. But I would suggest that if you want to do a video any time of the day, you might want to get some lights with natural light bulbs, or a studio light with natural light in it for consistent lighting. And of course, put the lights onto, they usually come with a light stand, but you need to be able to adjust your lights and move them back and forth depending on how you feel they're doing. And we can talk about that later as well. So you don't need a fancy studio like this one, but you could say that the size of her screen there is about the size of the space horizontally that you need, and vertically. It's not much space that you need. You can even do, what is that, 6 to 7 feet back from that. Put a desk there, put your computer on, have your lights around, and she's in a professional photography, so we'll just ignore her because we can't afford to rent space to do that. What we want to do is to start out with just a desk and a computer and 7 feet of space. And another day I'll get my stick out and show you my space that's messy. but you can't see the mess. So, and then what you want to do is when you're sitting in your space, we want to do a composition. So let me see if I can do this on my own. I think I can. So I like to have usually a screen at the back where which I can change and have slides and things. This one doesn't. This is just one photo, and I'm just trying to keep in the middle of the space just so that you can read, the name of the group. But with the software that I use, I can actually change the position of myself. Let's see if we're gonna, yes, I can change the position of myself. And as well, I can also compose a different size so that I'm looking smaller. So I could be that small. I could be up here. And whatever composition I like. So depending on what you're doing with your talk on your computer and showing in your studio space, you don't have to be fixed in one spot. I'd prefer not to stand up in my space, but you can imagine that, well, I would move the webcam. I think it would be easier to move the webcam, but you could actually, if you could get the webcam to do a shot, you could be standing in your space, in your studio space, if I move back. But I'm not going to. That's one thing I won't do. Let's just say. Unless I have to do a demo. So as you can see, you can compose yourself to be where you need to be if you have a green screen and if you have the software. But we can talk about that later as well. But it's a good thing to think about. See if you want to have the flexibility of being able to compose the look of your space. So let's get back to our little presentation. And here we go. And so also, of course, we've already started to talk about microphones and sound, and we'll talk maybe further about microphones and sound, and as well talking about sound editing or editing your video. And then we'll be talking also, we'll be talking also about teleprompter. As you know, I am not very good at looking into the camera, and I do look like I'm reading, and that's one of my issues that I'm not too worried about. But if you want to have a teleprompter, and we'll talk about teleprompters as well, there's one called Prompt Puppy. I believe it's free on trial. You could try, and it basically, you just put your text in there, and it scrolls as slowly or as quickly as you want right in front of you. So here I am. This is one of my studio backgrounds in one of my shows. And so if you want to get the Getting Started Easy TV Show Blueprint checklist, which has suggested equipment and software editing as well as others things, you can go to http://jgtips.com/equipment and opt in there to get the checklist to start thinking about the equipment that you might need in order to have a studio space. I just give you a few general ideas. I'm certainly not going to talk on long term on the light stands or anything, or lights or anything like that, but just to give you a general idea on the kind of equipment that you need to have in order to have a home studio